Hello, this is Andrine, a Jewish American priestess, and I'm coming to you today with a Hebrunes reading. I'm very grateful. I checked my channel this week and I have 102 subscribers, and I'm very grateful to all of you who have subscribed newly and those who have been following me all along. And so I just want to say great gratitude to all of you, as well as to the one who brings us together. So on that note, I'm going to do a Hebrunes reading today, and today I'm going to use the Hebrunes, the Nordic runes, as well as some tarot cards. And the way I'm going to do that is I'm going to choose 3 tarot cards, lay them out for you to pick which one you like the best, and then when you are guided to your reading, I'll place the timestamps down below, and then I'll do an individual reading for each of those cards. So let's get started. I'm going to move these off to the side. And we'll start with our very tiny tarot deck. And I'm just going to shuffle for a second with the intention to think about gratitude and to think about us coming into this new week. We just passed through Shabbat, and we're about to head into Rosh Hashanah. For those of you who are watching this now, this can be a timeless reading for anyone who wants to find it in the future. But for those of you who are following along in live time, we are currently in the last week of Elul, and that's why I have the shofar here. The shofar is the ram's horn that we sound on Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, and all the days of the month of Elul. So I am grateful for the ending of things and the beginning of new things as we come around in the wheel of the year. Let's pick 3 cards now. And there comes one. And I see, let's try again. There's this one, wants to come out. And then our 3rd card will be this one. Okay, I'm going to set these off to the side. And let's take a look and see which 3 cards came out today. So card number 1, we have the Nine of Pentacles. For card number 2, we have the Queen of Cups. And for card number 3, we have the King of Wands. So take a moment to sit with or feel into the cards, or just find which one your eyes are drawn to. And I'll put the labels of the timestamps down below, and you can meet me in your reading. Welcome, card number 1, those of you who've chosen the Nine of Pentacles today. Let's take a look at it first. And what I love about it is it's the Nine of Pentacles, and it has a crown at the bottom. And for those of you who know anything about the 10 Sephirot or the Tree of Life, you'll know that the bottom Sephirah is that of Malchut, which is sovereignty or the queenliness of things. The top Sephirah is also Keter, which is crown, but since we have this one at the bottom, representing manifestation into the world, I think that's lovely. And then we have the other 9 Sephirot, possibly, coming up from the bottom, and they're not arranged exactly as you might in a normal Tree of Life, but they are Yesod, Netzach, Hod, Tiferet, Gevurah, Chesed, Chochmah, Bina, and Keter, and sometimes Da'at. So we have all these different emanations of the divine. It is said that the top 3 are divine emanations that people cannot necessarily access, but the lower 7 we can access. So I think of that in terms of this particular version of the Nine of Pentacles, which has this tree of pentacles blossoming as if things are coming into bloom, things are coming into fruition. also has flowers on it, you can see. So, and the Nine of Pentacles, of course, as we know, if you follow any tarot, traditionally means that of abundance or wish fulfillment. Those pentacles that we have been working so hard to grow are now coming to us here. So it is this beautiful fulfillment card of abundance coming in, and it's perfect for this time of year because here we are right now in the time of harvest, because we are in the fall time, in at least the hemisphere where I live, in the northern hemisphere. I'm going to scoop us in a little bit here. And so you have this time of harvest that we're coming into, where the fruits of the summer, for me, I have a plum tree in the backyard, which is bursting with Italian plums right now. We have an apple tree that's just dropping apples like literally by the minute out in the backyard, and a pear tree and figs as well. So all of these fruits that we've planted and tended, all the things that we've tended up until now, are coming to harvest. And I love that. And that's also a metaphorical thing, of course, about what have we planted right now? What is coming to harvest right now in our lives? And the way I'm going to do the reading today is, first I'm going to pull out, I think I'm going to pull out 3 Hebrunes of what our current situation is, what is our challenge in the situation, and what is our outcome. And also 3 Nordic runes to clarify those as well. So let's start with the Hebrunes. And I'll stir those up. And at the top we have the Nun. Set these on the left here. In the center, we have the letter Kaf. And at the bottom, we have the letter Beit. I think I'm going to pull out all of the Hebrunes and runes at the same time before we read. So now I'll go into my bag of Nordic runes. And what is our current situation? We have Yira, which is perfect. Our challenge is Lagus. And our outcome is Ingwaz. Lovely. Okay, starting at the top left, we have the letter Nun. And the letter Nun is the letter that brings forth the image of someone you can see looks like kneeling or bowing over. So it's all about humility. It's all about remaining humble. But it's also the word, the letter that begins the word Nes, which means miracle. So something miraculous is happening right now. Something maybe that is born out of humility, that is born out of that ability to understand that we're not the center of the universe, that there's something greater than us. So there's this idea of remaining humble, bowed slightly with an appropriate amount of humility, not humiliation, not self-deprecation, but remaining humble and allowing for miracles to occur. Perhaps believing that the miracle can occur is part of that. Remaining faithful and loyal to whatever it is we are called to do. Sticking with it long enough. And I think about that in terms of the Nine of Pentacles, is that we've come from the Eight of Pentacles, which is this working hard toward mastery. So the idea of remaining humble and faithful and loyal to our path, maybe looking inward and becoming thoughtful, becoming contemplative about what our goal is, what our journey is about, what are the miracles that are around us, how can we recognize that which is around us as a miracle, even when outwardly it may not appear to be so. So that's where we are right now. And when I sat with the Hebrunes and affiliated them with the different tarot cards, I came up with the Nun representing the hermit, someone who sits in a bowed sort of contemplative space in order to discern what their connection is with the divine in the world. So this idea of solitude, and that's the time of year we're in right now. This month of Elul is often associated with the hermit card in tarot, because it is a time of contemplation. It's a time where we sit and contemplate the gifts of the universe, contemplate the rewards and the harvest. And I think that's beautiful in terms of what's coming up with the Nordic runes right now is the Yira. And Yira is about harvest. It's about cycles and seasons, but about bringing in that which is grown and is being harvested right now. So both of these have a sense of harvest. And both of these have a sense of taking time to recognize the miraculous growth that has taken place in the last year. So for those of you who are looking at the Nine of Pentacles, think about what time you've taken, what miracles you're recognizing, and what you're drawing in your harvest right now. Our challenge in the situation is the kaf. And the kaf represents the palm of a hand or the sole of a foot. And so it has to do with wealth and poverty. It's a binary transformation of wealth and poverty in the Sefer Yetzirah, the book of creation. And also about power. Koach starts with the letter kaf, as well as the word keter, which means crown. So we've got a crown on the card. We have this idea of giving and receiving, and the idea of power. And it's in the position of being what is a challenge or a fear right now. And when this shows up in this position for me, I think of it in terms of, am I giving too much? Am I giving only what I have available to give, or am I overgiving? Am I receiving too much? Am I being greedy and not wanting to let go of some of my wealth, whether that be physical, material wealth, or spiritual wealth, or knowledge? So there's something here about the challenge between having abundance and sharing it with the world. That there's some abundance that is showing up right now in your life miraculously, that you have the opportunity to share with others, perhaps, or there's harvest available for you from others that you have to be willing to both give up part of what you have to give, as well as receive what is being freely offered to you by the divine, by the world, by another human being. So I think that the kaf here is about that balance, finding that balance between giving and receiving, between wealth and poverty, between feeling wealthy enough that you can give and feeling empowered to receive when you need to receive as well. Just noticing that my camera is a little skewed here, so I'm going to adjust. Okay. And on the right side, we have the Nordic rune of Laguz. Laguz is the lake or water, and it has to do with emotion and feeling all things well, whether they're perceived as positive or negative. So when I see Laguz in this challenge position, I think of it in terms of, are we expressing ourselves emotionally in ways that are necessary and appropriate? Perhaps there's grief about things coming to an end. Like I said, the harvest is a joyful time where we have the ability to bring in a lot of wealth, but it's also, it can be perceived as a sad time because things are coming to an end. The summer is coming to an end in terms of our northern hemisphere, or something that we are gathering in this harvest is coming to an end, and then we start again. I mean, that's how things work in the world, that we gather and harvest, and then we mourn perhaps that which has come, celebrate and mourn what has come. And Lagos can be about emotional joy as well. So all those emotions, again, that binary between expressing emotion that is both positive emotion and what's perceived as negative emotion. So tears of joy, tears of grief, and finding the balance there. And not being afraid to feel those emotions, not being afraid to express those emotions. And then at the end of it, the waters come. The waters come in terms of the rains of the winter, the floods sometimes of the winter. And then we start again. So with these two, we've got the giving and receiving on the Hebrew runes side, and we've got the emotional expression on the Nordic runes side. And our outcome letter on the Hebrew side is the letter Beit. We have the letter Beit, and the letter Beit is about home. It's about finding our place in our house. Where do we live? And finding our place in our body as well. It is about that binary transformation of life and death. So knowing that we have that period of time, that things grow from seeds, they grow into abundance, and then that plant is going to die through the winter, and then hopefully it will be born again in the spring through the seeds that it's planted. So Beit has that binary transformation of life and death, and knowing that continuum exists for each of us. It's also, for me, about where do I live in the body, in the planet, and in my physical home as well. But I have many homes, and if my home changes due to circumstance or physical disaster, I still have my body with me until I don't. So there's that idea of life and death again. So perhaps our outcome here is finding comfort in our bodies, finding comfort in our homes, finding a way to embrace both life and death. It is about beginnings, because it is the first letter of Torah, which means in the beginning, Bereshit. So we have this first word of Torah, Bereshit, which is about beginnings. But again, like I said, is that transformation between life and death. So as things come to an end, as we're seeing here with the harvest, we come back to a beginning again with the Beit. And it is about the mouth and the body. So being able to speak what we'd like to see in the world and create what we'd like to see in the world. And I correspond it with the world card in tarot, because it is about it's about where we dwell, the planet, the world, about speaking what we'd like to see into the world. So we have the letter Beit as our outcome, which is a beautiful way to end with a beginning. And similarly, on the right side, we have Ingwaz, which is Ing's rune. Ing is the god of fertility. So we have this idea of seeds being planted again. And I think this is beautiful to start with a harvest, go through a wet period, and then have the seed show up at the bottom here as what's coming in the future is that new seed of growth that comes out of the harvest and out of the rainy season, which can seem dark and cold at times. But when we come through to the other side, we have a seed again. And that's just beautiful in terms of our Nine of Pentacles tree of life here, because we're starting with this blossoming, fruiting body of all the pentacles that are available to us. So when we're thinking about our abundance, when we're thinking about the wishes that we've been granted and the miracles that have come forth from our time of solitude and humility, that we're harvesting those. We have to really struggle sometimes with the giving and receiving, whether we're going to keep everything for ourselves, we're going to give away what we can afford to give away, whether we're going to grieve that plant that has provided for us, but now maybe it's time to compost into something new. And for those of you who have come through a transformation recently of perhaps something coming to an end. And I feel that really strongly right now in the world, that the summer is coming to an end, that there are certain projects perhaps that we've been involved in that are coming to an end, and it's time to harvest what we can and grieve what we need to let go. Because that's how we work in the garden. That's how I work in the garden, is that I'm out there, I'm harvesting the plants. It's very challenging for me to be a gardener because I don't feel like it's fair to pick out the weeds or whatever, but in order to get the harvest, we have to root through the weeds, decide what to give, what to take, what to leave, and then let go of the rest. And when we do that, we'll find our place at the beginning with the seed again. We'll find our home in our body and on the planet, and our way back to something new that can grow up in the future, using the harvest of our fruits and perhaps enjoying the fruit and saving those seeds so that we can plant them again into the future to make a more beautiful home, to make a more beautiful, healthy body. So for those of you who chose the Nine of Pentacles, this has been your reading for this week of gratitude, and I am so grateful that you're here as part of my harvest, and I so look forward to seeing you in the new year of 5784 as it comes into Rosh Hashanah this coming week. I'm going to go ahead and sound the ram's horn for you as a welcome to the new year. This is probably going to make the dog bark. So Lashana Tova, if I do not see you before then, and hopefully we'll see you here next time. Hello and welcome. Card number 2, those of you who chose the Queen of Cups. Let's take a look at her. In this particular version of the Queen of Cups, you can see that she is a mermaid, which I love. I was at a fairy festival yesterday, and there were live mermaids there, so that was fun. She's also playing a beautiful instrument. You can see waves behind her. She's got a cup on her head, a sign of her suit. So the Queen of Cups is the matriarch of the emotions and all things water. So she is about nurturing and growth, and the womb, it's the amniotic fluid that we are all gestated in. And she is here today to bring us abundance and emotional flow and other kinds of flow as well. And again, she is the mistress, I would say, of her realm of water. And I'm going to set her here in the center. And we're going to pull out 3 Hebrunes and 3 Nordic runes and see what kind of clarity we have for what's coming up right now with regards to this transformation time, this time of emotion, of really diving in deep to whatever is coming to fruition this time of year. So let's pull out 3 Hebrunes. I'm going to shuffle a little bit in this bowl. And the Hebrew at the top is the letter Kaf. In the center we have the Hebrew that represents the challenge or the fear in our situation. And we have the letter Samech. And then at the bottom, what's the outcome or advice for our situation given the current circumstances? And we have the letter Shin. I'm going to pull out the Nordic runes as well right now. We're going to put those on the right side and see if we get more clarity about this reading for the Queen of Cups. So at the top we have Isa. In the center we have Ewaz. And at the bottom we have Digas. Nice. Okay, starting at the top, we have on the left, we have the letter Kaf. And the letter Kaf is the letter that is representative of a palm of a hand and or the sole of a foot. It's about giving and receiving, and it's also a little bit about power. It's this beginning of the word koach, which means power or strength, and the word keter, which means crown. So I think about it in terms of power and sovereignty, or who's holding power over whom. And if you turn it this way, of course, it looks a little bit like a cup. So, and you can be the cupped hand. But I also sometimes represented as the hand of Shekhinah, who is raising us up, and or sheltering us from something that is dangerous. And I think of the Queen of Cups a lot of in terms of the Shekhinah. She's the feminine divine, or the indwelling presence of the divine. So a very strong feminine deity that's very nurturing and has a lot to do with water. And so the Kaf in this position with this particular card, I'm thinking of it in terms of giving and receiving, being able to receive what we need to receive right now and give what we need to give right now, and feeling raised up by the hand of the divine, feeling sheltered by the hand of the divine. The word skach, which means the covering that one puts on top of their sukkah, which is coming up in, oh gosh, a little bit under a month, where we have Sukkot, and we build little forts in the yard where we eat and have our harvest festival. That skach covers over us and protects us from the sun. And Kaf represents the sun in the sky. It's the letter that's affiliated with the sun. So it can be about that sun. It's a little bit of oppression, and the hand of the Shekhinah covering us like skach in the sukkah, and or lifting us up and helping us feel buoyed in our lives as we are traveling through with that palm of the hand. So here we are right now in this position of feeling the shelter of the hand from the sun, because it is still very hot in this late part of summer. And so the Shekhinah in the form of the Queen of Cups is here lifting us up with her hand and sheltering us with her hand, and allowing us to receive what we need to receive and give what we need to give in that exchange that gives us the sense of our own power and our own sovereignty in our situation. On the right side, we have the Nordic rune Isa, and Isa means ice. So it can be about standing still and just remaining present. And it can be a standstill, something that is, frozen in place. But I think of it in this position as just being where we are right now and accepting and receiving what we need to receive. Standing still and standing in the presence of the divine, the presence, the Shekhinah, which means the presence. So standing still and receiving what it is we need to receive right now with gratitude in our situation, in the arms of the Queen of Cups, in the arms of the Mother right now. Our challenge in our situation, we have the letter Samach, and Samach is a cycle and a circle and a wheel. So it does speak to seasons, and maybe right now the seasonal transition is difficult. Maybe it's hard to go from the summer to the fall when the weather changes and it starts getting darker each day in the northern hemisphere. So cycles and seasons can be challenging. That transformation time can be very hard on us. Also, it looks like the sun in the sky. It's got that circular idea. Also, it looks a little bit like the full moon. So that idea cycles again. But it's also in the Paleo Hebrew and the Proto Hebrew, it looked like a thorn. So there may be some agitation here. In the book of creation, the Sefer Yetzirah, which speaks about each of the letters, the Samach corresponds to the foundation of agitation. So there's a little bit of a thorniness that's going on around it. You can see there's a little thorn in the upper left corner. And that thorn can be prodding us towards something different or better. So there may be some challenges here with agitation about these transformations, agitation about the changing seasons and cycles. And one thing I like to remember when I think about that thorn is that it's there for protection. Like a rose has thorns for protection. They're not there to just irritate us. That thorn looks a little bit like the letter Yud, and the letter Yud is the first letter of the divine name. So even our thorns, even our challenges come from the divine. So here we are in this cycle, in this season, in this transition that we're in right now. And we're feeling a little irritated, a little agitated. And the thing to remember is that we are being prodded forward by the divine to something perhaps better, certainly something different. And each cycle and season has its place in our life. So as we are struggling with our challenge here, remember that we are still surrounded with protection. The letter Samekh begins the word Sovev, which means to be surrounded. So the Samekh can be like a protective hug as well. And it looks a little bit like that womb space, the pregnant belly as well. And so I think about it in terms of the water, the amniotic fluid in which we are bathing right now, being surrounded. And even though it's irritating and maybe it's getting uncomfortable inside that womb, that we need to get born soon, but until we do, that's the only world we know. So those transitions, those cycles and seasons are important, and sometimes even if they're uncomfortable, they are entirely necessary. On the Nordic rune side, we have the letter Ehwaz. And Ehwaz is sometimes seen as a horse, or the spirit, I would say. So it's about moving forward with spirit, and it is a horse. So it's got this binary dichotomy between are we riding forward on this spirit horse, or are we the spirit horse that somebody's riding on? So depending on whether you're the rider or the horse, it can be a better or worse situation for you. I mean, horses love to run. I don't know how much they love to run with someone on their back, but this being in the position of the challenge here, we need to really consider, what is our vehicle like? Are we riding the spirit? Are we really harnessing that spirit in order to pull ourselves forward? Or are we the horse that has some rider on our back trying to get us someplace? And that can be irritating. It can have that sense of irritation, agitation, like the Samekh on the left here. I just had this hit that because we have the Queen of Cups here, we can lead a horse to water, but we can't make it drink. So that old phrase, which is true, we can try to get somebody to do something, but only they can make that choice. So we can ride that, we can get on our spirit horse and ride forward, but we still have to drink from the water. We still have to reach into the well and choose to drink. I'm at this moment dog sitting my eldest's dog. Well, she's at this fairy festival performing, and I put out the bowl of water and the dog will not drink. I think about this in terms of this horse. So we have this ability to get on our spirit horse and ride our way forward, and we still have to be the ones who choose to drink from the water. So that may be our challenge right now. Feeling that agitation, irritation, maybe the agitation of having a rider on our back, being able to lasso or harness that spirit and ride it forward to where we need to go. And then remember to dip into the water when we get to it and take a drink. And our final letter in the Hebrew side is the letter Shin. The letter Shin is the mother letter of fire. So it's about passion. You can see it looks a little bit like fire licking up from the bottom there, with 3 yuds at the top and 3 vavs coming down and another vav at the very bottom. The yuds are all about seeds and about the divine. The Vavs are all about connection. So we have a lot of connection, a lot of seeds being planted, and fire. And fire is all about transformation. So one can use fire to transform something from one state to another. And it's this mercurial, I would say mercurial, it's this plasma. It's a different kind of substance than solid, gas, or liquid. It's sort of all of them at once. It's sort of this liquidy, gaseous transformation of solid into gas. So, or solid into another form of solid. And so it's got this this transformational phase that it's in, and fire is so transformative in terms of cleansing. Someone might cleanse with fire. It's not always pleasant, but it is always efficient to cleanse with fire. And passion. There's passion that has to do with love. There's passion that has to do with anger. Interestingly, the Shin is related to the summertime. So we are right now coming to the close of the summer in the northern hemisphere. Those in the southern hemisphere going into the summer. So there's something about transformation and something about the hot season, that passionate season, that season of fire. So that's what's coming up, is this idea of passion and fire and transformation through fire, possibly connection and seed planting as well, that's affiliated with the Shin. And on the right side, interestingly, we also have Degaz. Degaz is about the breaking of the day, something also very bright and shiny. And it's about breakthrough and transformation as well. So something's coming on both sides here that has to do with being able to see something bright, shiny, something fiery that is going to light things up so that you can see your way through. And if you've ever seen sunlight on water, it has that sparkly breakthrough image to it, that light that dazzles on the water. So as we're dealing with these elements all coming together, where we've got the sun in the sky, interestingly here, and the Shin here about the fire, the Degaz, which is about the breaking of the day, also sun and fire, but something really being revealed here, maybe through that dipping into the water, maybe through that spirit journey that you may be taking, being surrounded by water. Maybe it's time to take a mikvah for the new year. I don't know. We've been standing still. We've been sitting in solitude and really contemplating our being sheltered by the divine and being raised up by the divine. We've got this transformation piece here where we're being agitated forward with the Samech and traveling forward on spirit with the Ewaz, and then we come into a place of fire, a place of breakthrough. So something is coming that's going to be exciting and fiery and passionate, and a breakthrough for you. You'll be able to see clearly your way forward. If we can trust in the emotional piece, if we can trust in our own heart, in our own nurturing and the nurturing of the Divine Mother, of the Shekhinah, if we can really bathe in that and be surrounded with that, be protected by her, and then come into the passion. And of course the Shin also begins the word Shekhinah. So we have the divine all over the place here, in the spirit on the right side and also on the left side, of all of these things coming together into one thing, this idea of the Shekhinah, the Shaddai, the breasted one, who is another name of the divine. So really trusting in and being embraced and surrounded by the divine will find you your breakthrough, find you your passion, and get you through to the other side as you're coming into Rosh Hashanah. And I'm looking forward to seeing you here next year in 5784. I'm going to sound the shofar as a wake-up call for you all, and I'll hope to see you here on the other side. Lashana Tova. Hello, card number 3, those of you who chose the King of Wands today. Let's take a look at your card here. So we have the King of Wands. He is the sovereign of his suit. can see he's carrying a wand on top of his palanquin, I guess you would call it. He's got a flower that's shining also at the top, looks a little bit like the sun. And he's got that wand that's got leaves and fruit possibly on it. He's inside this palanquin on top of the elephant, which is one of the strongest, largest animals that we have available to us to use for our transportation. So that elephant looks very happy. I don't know whether he's happy being carrying the king, but he looks proud at any rate. He's got a couple of tusks and a curly trunk. He's marching along. And the King of Wands, interestingly, on top of the elephant, I think about him as being, wands are about passion. They're about fire, fertility on the yang side, which is to say the male phallic symbol of the wand itself, and magic, because you use a wand if you're a magician to make the magic. So fire, passion, sexual passion as well. So that's what our king is about here. And he's again, the master of his suit. He's the one who is in charge of all of the others in the wands realm. And I'm going to pull out 3 Hebrunes today and also 3 Nordic runes. So we're going to start by stirring these up a little bit and see what comes out in terms of our current situation, our fear or challenge of the situation, and our outcome for the situation. And we have at the top the letter Zayin. Perfect. In the center, I'm feeling the letter Vav. Nice. And on the bottom for this reading, we've got the letter Aleph. Nice. Okay, and then for the Nordic runes, similarly, we're going to pull out 3, just the same. And at the top, we have the Berkana rune. In the center, we have the Fehu. And at the bottom, Hagalas. Oh, interesting is that. Okay, wow. Okay, I find this really interesting with the wands. How well, I'll go into it and see. So starting with the top, we have the Zayin. And the Zayin is the Hebrew that means, it's a Hebrew letter that means a sword or a scepter. And that's exactly what a wand is, right? So it's the sword or the scepter. And it's about sovereignty. It's about being the king, being in charge. I associate this with the Emperor card in tarot. So the big power and authority of the Zayin. Interesting. And so it's about magic. It's a completion because it's the number 7. And in Hebrew, we have the 7 days of creation. So 7s are completion numbers or completion letters. And it has this idea of magic because the number 7 has this magical element to it. And you can see that in other cultures too, where you got lucky number 7, right? So it's about power. It's about the 7th day of creation, which corresponds to Shabbat, which is the day of rest, interestingly, and also the Shabbat bride, which is the Shekhinah, the indwelling presence of the divine. And it's often seen as a feminine presence, but it's not about gender here. It's about power. So we have the indwelling presence of the divine with the King of Wands, who is all about wielding swords and scepters and having a wand, about completions and power here. And I think this is wonderful. This is our current situation. We're coming into power. We're having ability to accept our own sovereignty and really claim our place as the powerful one in this situation, to really rest in that because of the Shabbat connotation. We have this idea of resting in it and really feeling comfortable, really resting in our magic and holding on to that scepter to create the magic that we have in us, that's coming to us from the divine presence that lives within us. And coming to a completion of something, really embracing our own sovereignty and accepting it, completing our situation with completing our summer, perhaps. We're completing this year of 5783 in the Hebrew calendar with this sense of power and authority, that we have the power and authority to be who we are, to do what we need to do, that we are called to by the indwelling presence of the divine. I love that here for you at the top of your reading here, that you've got this power, that you've got the King of Wands and this power coming together as one. And on the right side with the Nordic runes, we have the Berkana, and that represents the birch tree, which, trees have power inherently, but the birch in particular is used in, for instance, in the sauna, you use birch branches to stir the air, to do some whisking and bring that steam up, which is perfect for the King of Wands with that fire and that heat. So the Berkana is often seen as a rebirth. So it's about newness coming into the world. This idea of the birch being this powerful wand that brings new growth into the world. And so these are interestingly different and similar in their ways. And so also Berkana is about rebirth and fertility, and it's often affiliated with the springtime. So it's like we've got an ending on this side and a new beginning on this side. But when I think about fertility, I think about that wand. I think about the phallic symbol that is that which plants the seed that causes the tree to grow. So a lot of power here, a lot of power with regards to the scepter, but also power in terms of the new growth that comes in once that seed is planted. So both sides, you've got growth and power and fertility coming through. In the center, that's the position of the challenge or fear in our situation, we have the letter Vav. And another wand, right? It looks like another wand here, or a staff of some sort. And I love that you've got the King of Wands and two staffs so far, two staves. And the Vav is the letter that literally means and in Hebrew. So it's about connection. And our challenge here may be connecting, right? So what do we use to connect with each other? The Vav is sometimes seen as a tent peg or a hook, the peg that tethers the tent to the earth, or the hook that connects the veils around the Holy of Holies. So something that's maybe a very small but very valuable piece of equipment that helps things to connect with each other. And I think about Vav in terms of the lovers, right? Because it's coming together and really connecting, and maybe connecting with the divine. It's often seen as a taproot or something that's reaching up for connection with divinity, because at the top you have the letter Yud, which is the first letter of the divine name. So a person standing tall and connecting with the divine. And ideally, if one is connecting with another, one is connecting with the divine as well. So our challenge here may be, how are we connecting with each other? How are we connecting with the divine? Are we connecting with the divine when we attempt to connect with another? All of these things, important questions right now, and challenges, possibly fears as well. Are we being able to maintain our connection with divinity when we are connecting with others here? Are we using our sexuality to try to connect in a way that is not as divinely inspired as we'd like it to be? So, important questions to ask as you're working with your King of Wands energy and your power here. Really important. In the Nordic side, we have the letter Fehu, which is the first letter of the Futhark, and it is about cattle, right? It's about wealth and worth. What is success? What is abundance? What kind of gain are you tending right now? What kind of projects have you got that you are really working on? And the challenge here may be finding your worth, your ability to lean into your worth and know that you have inherent worth inside. And how does that portray out into the world? So maybe we're having some trouble feeling worthy or being able to manifest our worth in the world right now. And when I think about it in terms of the rest of our situation here, we've got the King of Wands. He's a very powerful and wealthy character in tarot, right? He's got all the wealth. He's got all the power. And maybe that's a challenge. Having too much power can be a challenge as well, in terms of connection. Like maybe we're appearing to have so much that we're not feeling connected on a personal level or on a divine level. So really think about what is valuable. What things are valuable, not just physically in the world, not just in terms of our money, but where is our real value in terms of our connection with others and our connection with the divine. And really sit with that. Really sit with how we're connecting to divinity, how we're connecting to others, and where the value is in everything concerning material wealth, as well as our spiritual wealth, as well as our relational wealth. And that's a challenge here. And at the bottom, what I'm finding really fascinating about these two, well, Aleph is the first letter of the alphabet, right? It's the letter Aleph. So it's the number one. So it's about oneness. It's about connection. It's got that Vav in there again, right? So you've got another wand right inside of it. So 3 wands for you and the King of Wands. You've got the Aleph, which has both the Vav of connection as well as the Yud and the Yud of divinity above and divinity below. So it's a balancing piece of balancing the divine above, the divine below, our connection to the divine, our connection to the earth. The number one, how do we reconcile oneness of divinity and the multiplicity of divinity as it shows up in every part of our life and every part of the universe? The number one, it begins, all the major names of God, El Elyon, El Shaddai, Adonai, all begin with Aleph. So there's so much here. The Aleph has so much within it. And it is the letter that in Paleo Hebrew is the letter that looks like a cow face. So it's about cattle, similar to Fehu. So we have cattle here again at the bottom, this outcome, which is that oneness, that completion of bringing everything back to the one at the end. And this is a beautiful outcome because coming back to the Aleph is sort of the goal, right? Finding our way back to oneness and our feeling of connection with divinity, with the planet, with each other, with another, finding balance. It is the mother letter of air. And breathing, just breath, finding our breath in the world is how we stay alive, right? That atmosphere that exists around the planet is the thing that keeps us breathing. And the breath, the oxygen that we breathe comes from the trees which are the things that we use to make wands. So coming back to the King of Wands, if he has a tree here, if he is able to plant a new tree in the form of the berkana and the birch, then he helps to provide oxygen for everyone on the planet. So much going on with the Aleph here as an outcome, and a beautiful outcome for someone who's struggling with power and strength, but bringing one back to the oneness, bringing the power back to the divine where it belongs. Interestingly, on the other side, we have Hagalaz, which is sometimes seen as a hailstorm. It's the weather that's happening all around us that can be very terrifying sometimes. It's the earthquake. It's the things shaking up. That is the wildness of nature. But it's also like the divine energy, the divine power that exists in the world. And if you look at these two together, you can see how similar they look, right? So you've got the Aleph on the one hand, which is the oneness of the divine, and the Hagalaz on the other side, which is like kind of primordial chaos and power that is uncontrolled, and they're the same and they're different, and the same. So that power, that wildness that comes with the Hagalas is also a beautiful outcome. And it can, again, be a little scary, but it's not that one needs to harness the power. It's that one needs to ride it through. Like if you're in the face of divinity, if you're in the face of the oneness of the divine, that's not going to be peaceful necessarily. It can be, but it can also be really, really exciting to the point of terrifying. So it's about hail and storms and again, earthquakes and all things that are disruptive and chaotic in the world, uncontrolled forces. And that, if that isn't divinity, I don't know what is. So I love this as an outcome for you. And it may, again, be a little bit uncomfortable. But we have the sword and the scepter in the Zion, and that power that comes with that, with the divine power that comes to the king. Or the sovereign, let's say, the emperor, the empress even, but that power that's here right now, that shows a new beginning as well. As things come to an end, new things are coming for beginning. So we have the Berkana, the birch tree, that new growth, and the trees which provide the wands. We have the Vav, the connection piece that may be challenging, maybe connecting with oneself, connecting with another, connecting with the divine, using one's sexuality or phallus to connect might not be ideal, that it's more important to connect with divinity than to move forward with that power in an interpersonal relationship. That we have to think about our wealth and our worth and what is value here. What is it that we find value in, and is that the connection with divinity and another, or is it just straight up wealth? Is it just the material objects that we own? And I think maybe not is the answer. So, and when we come through all of that, we'll come to the place of the Aleph, back to the oneness, come to that balance between, again, divine above, divine below, divine within, that connection, and the multiplicity and the unity of the divinity in all things, and the Hagalas, which is that chaos that reigns when we let things go. And it's a beautiful chaos. It's a chaos that brings wholeness, that brings oneness again. I just love how similar those two letters are. So for those of you who chose the King of Wands today, this has been your reading. I hope to see you before, if not on Rosh Hashanah, and into the new year, 5784. And I'm going to sound the ram's horn one time for our welcoming, maybe for our completion of the year and our welcoming into the new year. It's probably going to make the dog bark, but we'll see. And thank you so much for following. I have so much gratitude for all of my subscribers, and I hope to see you here next time. Lashana Tova.